If you're an automaker trying to figure out how much to price your new vehicle for, well, you're in for quite a lot of maths. You have to obviously cover the cost of materials and labour in making your vehicle, but you also have to recoup any design, research and development costs that went into said vehicle. Then you have to figure out what the going rate is for the market that you're aiming to sell in essence, what other companies are charging for similar vehicles. And then you have to decide how much of a profit, if any, you want to make on your car. Of course, I have simplified this a whole bunch, but the ultimate answer to how much an automaker should charge for its vehicles comes down to how much someone is willing to pay for them. If you are a luxury high-end prestige marque, you can ultimately end up charging a whole lot more for your vehicles than someone who isn't, because people who want such high-end vehicles are usually able and willing to pay a lot more for them. Family hatchbacks aimed at more budget-oriented buyers, well, they tend to need to be in a more affordable price bracket. Otherwise, said automaker could find out that they've been priced out of the market by a vehicle that no one can afford. And pricing themselves out of the market is exactly what many news outlets are saying that Bollinger's just done by releasing pricing for the B1 and B2 electric SUV and pickup truck. They are saying essentially that the small startup is pricing itself out of the market. Its pricing announcement, made midweek, says that both vehicles will go on sale in 2021 with an MSRP of $125,000. For that, buyers will be able to pick between the 4-seat SUV or 4-seat pickup truck, both of which have 614 horsepower, 4.5-second sprint times, 668 pound-feet of torque, dual motor, all-wheel drive, 15 inches of ground clearance, onboard power inverters for backup power, and a massive 125 kilowatt hours of onboard battery capacity. This will, says Bollinger, give an on-road range of around 200 miles per charge. Add in 5,000 pounds of payload capacity and 7,500 pounds of towing capacity, and you're left with a very beefy, reasonably capable truck. But for $125,000, well, that's more than most people were expecting. The B1 and B2 are primarily very basic in their creature comforts. There's no massive touchscreen multifunction display for the driver or passengers to use. There are no electric windows. It's completely manual all over. And the B1 and B2 do not feature any kind of autonomous driver assistance features out of the factory. Instead, the doors and windows are completely removable and manual. The inside is completely waterproof, so you can actually hose it down if it gets dirty. And while you will get Bluetooth hands-free calling and audio system, as well as air conditioning and optional heated seats, you're not going to get most of the kind of things that most people would expect out of a $125,000 vehicle. I mean, I recently had to spend a week with a Chevrolet Silverado HD, a truck which had seating for 5, electrically heated, cooled, everything, and even a button to open all of the windows at the same time rather than force me to press 4 separate buttons. And try as I might, when I tried to configure that truck online, I couldn't get it much above $70,000 with literally every option box ticked. But me and so many other people trying to make that comparison means I think that we're ultimately missing the point. The B1 and B2 are all-electric work trucks that are currently aimed at a very niche market of buyers, a niche market of buyers for whom the electric drivetrain is worth that extra money. At this point, I guess we need to address the massive elephant in the room. If you try to compare the B1 and B2 to something like a Tesla Model X, or maybe a Rivian R1S or R1T, you're not going to find a huge amount to compare. And honestly, if you did, most people wouldn't choose the Bollinger if they were given a blank check for 125 grand. As I've said time and time again, however, we don't all have the same tastes and desires when it comes to vehicle ownership. If we did, we'd only have one choice of vehicle. We'd all be driving the same thing. And I also feel compelled here to note that niche vehicles exist absolutely everywhere. Look, for example, there are plenty of high-cost, high-performance sports cars out there that adhere to what most people view of as being the concept of what a high-performance sports car should be like. Yet vehicles like the Ariel Atom, which completely fail at satisfying most of these requirements, still exist. People who buy Ariel Atoms buy them because they're blisteringly fast and probably the closest thing you're ever going to get to a motorcycle with 4 wheels, or perhaps the closest thing to a road-legal race car. For most people, the Bollinger B1 and B2 pricing announcement has put these two vehicles out of their consideration, without question, and that's fine. But for some people, the B1 and B2 are still exactly what they want. Ultra-rugged, heavy-duty trucks that offer load carrying and towing that few other plug-in vehicles can come close to offering. Which brings me to my final point. It's disingenuous, I think, to view the B1 and B2 as vehicles which will sell well to private buyers. They won't. They were never meant to. They are too expensive and too niche. But for corporate customers and governments, where environmental responsibility, long-term cost effectiveness, low emissions, off-road, rugged operations are prized above other things, well, these two vehicles will do just fine. In the US, for example, there are still massive tax breaks for companies and organizations buying heavy-duty trucks like the B1 and B2. If you add these to the electric vehicle tax breaks, you can pretty easily write off a sizable chunk of that pretty large sticker price. And large businesses aren't especially concerned so much with their monthly payments for the vehicle, but the total cost of ownership over an extended period of time. Factor in all of the fuel bills that you'd ordinarily get for a similarly sized heavy-duty truck to the B1 and B2, and let's be honest, these are vehicles that will probably struggle to get more than about 10 or 15 miles per US gallon. And cost savings do start to add up very quickly, especially if you have a whole fleet of them. In conclusion, the B1 and B2 probably are now way too heavily priced for the average private buyer. But for large fleets where a Tesla or a Rivian would just be too fancy, or where internal combustion engine vehicle fleets rack up literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in fuel costs per year, well then, these two trucks become very enticing propositions indeed. That's it. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to help us make more videos like this, please do like, comment and subscribe. You can send us a couple of dollars our way every month through Patreon, feed our coffee habit, or help pay for the crew's LA trip to the LA Auto Show with Ko-fi, or visit our swag store. I'll be back soon with more content for you all to enjoy, but until then, keep evolving.